Hi, I'm Sasha. Today I'm going to be doing two looks for you from the ColourPop Mauve collection. Here are the swatches for the Making Mauves Eyeshadow palette. There are 9 different shades in this palette, including 5 mattes, 1 matte with pinpoints of silver and violet pearl, and 3 shimmery metallic shades. This is a cool tone palette with neutral shades and mauve tones. Here are the swatches for the blushes and lip gloss. The blush on the left is Catch My Vibe, which is a matte pale baby pink. The blush on the right is Coast to Coast, which is a matte soft mauve. You can also see the lip gloss, which is the shade Check-In. This is a warm mauve with a silver sheen. Today I wanted to do 2 different looks for you to show off the range of this palette. Look number 1 will focus on the matte tones with just a hint of glitter. Look number 2 is much more glittery. I also use the deep plum shade Marquee as a smudgy eyeliner. So let's get right into it. For the first look, I'm going to start with this shade here called Solitaire. I'm just going to use it in the crease as a transition shade. This one actually has quite a bit of pigment, so I'm also going to take it on the lid sort of as a base tone. This is a really beautiful neutral shade. I feel like it's just going to give a nice base to everything else. Now I'm going to take that same brush into the shade here called Big Moves. Just going to take this all over the lid. This is a really beautiful lilac shade. I feel like it has a nice soft pigment to it. It doesn't look too chalky or pastel. I feel like it's just really nice and soft. Now I'm going to take a smudgy pencil brush into the shade here called Big Fig. I'm just going to work it on the outer half of the eyelid. They call this one a dusty lavender shade. I think it's just a really nice, slightly deeper lilac. I'm going to work it up in the crease a little bit as well. I love how highly pigmented these shades are. I feel like we're getting some nice definition here, and I haven't even used very much product. I'm going to take the same thing on the other side, just work this on the outer half of the eyelid and up into the crease. Now I'm going to take this small brush into this deep matte plum shade called Marquee. I'm just going to work that in a diagonal angle and up into the crease. This is such a beautiful shade. It almost reminds me of like a violet. It's just so highly pigmented and gorgeous. Now I'm rubbing it out with my finger just a little bit. The same thing on the other side. You really don't need very much of this. A little goes quite a long way. Wow, this shade is so gorgeous. It looks a little bit different to me on my eyes than it does in the pan, but I think it's just really beautiful. It's just such a nice like violet gradient here. Now I want to do a similar look on the lower lash line, so I'm going to jump right into Big Fig. Just going to take this and kind of stamp it in on the lower lash line. I'm going to go about 2/3 across. You can do the same thing on the other side, just about 2/3 across. So part of the reason why I like to use a really small brush here is that if I get it too low, it's going to look like a dark circle, especially when I use tones like these deep mauves. It's like the same tones that are in my under eye circles. So I try to be really careful to make sure to keep it directly under the lash line, kind of where my lashes fall, and not any lower. Now I'm going to take just a little bit of the shade here called Marquee, kind of stamp that in on the very outer edge of that lower lash line. I'm also going to work it up into the colors that we have on the upper eyelid. Same thing on the other side. So I'm really only using a tiny bit of this. It goes so far that you really don't need much powder at all. Now I'm going to flip that brush over and take it into the shade here called R&R. Just going to work this into the inner corner to give us a little bit of brightness. I'm going to do the same thing on both sides and on the lower lash line as well. So I want it just to barely meet those purple shades. So now comes the hard part. I want to accent this with a little bit of one of these glitters, but I have to pick a shade. So let's check them out. This one is Mauve on Top. It looks like a beautiful kind of rosy shimmer. This one is by Coastal, which they call Pink Ivory. And that one is a la Mode, which they call a true mauve with pinpoints of pearl. This is a really tough choice, you guys. Based on the colors that I have going on currently, I think I'm going to go with the one in the middle here called By Coastal. It's a little bit more cool than these other ones, which are a little more rosy. So I'm just going to take my pinky finger into By Coastal, and I'm going to stamp this on the inner corner. And I'm going to stamp it on the other side. Just going to work it out a little bit towards the middle. I want it to have a nice gradient effect, but I don't want it to highlight the middle too much. Wow, this is really pretty. It's such a beautiful kind of icy sheen. It's a little bit more fine than some of the other glitter shades I've seen from ColourPop recently. I'm going to try to take a little bit on this small smudge brush here. Whoa, cat hair. I'm going to try to take a little bit on this tiny brush here and just sort of paint it on the lower lash line. Kind of work this around the tear duct just a little bit. Okay, we still got some glitter fallout. I think that might be inevitable. I can't believe how fine that glitter is. It is just incredibly beautiful with these other cool tones. I wish you guys could see it in person because it has such a nice, beautiful shimmer to it. I hope you're enjoying this video. If you are, please give it a like or consider subscribing. I post new beauty videos twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. Central. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can be the first to watch my new videos. Alright, now it's time for some mascara. Today I'm going to use this Pacifica Stellar Gaze Length and Strength Mascara. This one is in the shade Supernova, which is black. This one has an incredibly long fluffy brush. I'm almost surprised that it fit in this tiny little travel size tube. So one of the reasons I like this mascara is because it's really easy to wash off. It's very gentle, but it also comes off really easily at the end of the night. Or in my case, in 5 minutes when I wash this off to do look number 2. I feel like it also gives a nice length and volume too. Now I just want to get on those lower lashes, so I'm trying to wipe off the excess mascara. This is not the most precise brush to do these lower lashes, but we'll do our best. Okay, that actually came out surprisingly well. I didn't poke myself in the eye or get it in my eye. I didn't get it in my hair even, so I think we did a good job today. I'm so excited today because there are 2 beautiful new blush shades to try out. First of all, I just wanted to show you that there's a beautiful floral imprint on the powder itself. So there are 2 different shades I'm choosing from today. This one is called Catch My Vibe, and it's a beautiful matte baby pink. The second one is a beautiful matte mauve. This one is called Coast to Coast. I think I want to go full on mauve today, so we're going to try this shade here called Coast to Coast. I've been using so many pink and peach blushes lately. I'm really excited to try this one. So I'm just going to work in on the apples of the cheeks and outwards. This one actually seems to have a fair bit of pink in it when I put it on as well. Seems to be a pretty highly pigmented blush. It said it was soft, but I feel like there's still a nice bit of color to it. I think since I naturally have more cool tones in my skin, it's already showing up a little bit more pink on me. For highlighter today, I'm going to use this ColourPop Andalasia highlighter. This one is a beautiful icy peach highlighter, so I'm just going to work it on the top of the cheekbone here and on the other side as well. I only want to use a little bit of shimmer, I don't want to highlight it too much. I'm going to take a tiny bit under the brow bone here and on the other side as well. A little bit on the cupid's bow and the tip of the chin. This is such a beautiful sheen. I feel like there's almost a bit of rosiness to it. I know they call it a peach, but I feel like it complements those purple tones so well. Now I'm going to use some of this Milani Silky Matte Bronzing Powder. This one is the shade Sunlight. I love the imprint on this bronzer. I think it is so pretty. Just like to take a little bit in the hollows of the cheeks here. It's a really subtle bronzer. It's not too strong or anything. Then I'll put a little bit in the hairline, some on the other side as well. I'm also going to take a little down the sides of the nose and down the jaw and neck. At least what we can reach of the neck. Now I'm going to use some of this ColourPop Luxe Gloss. This one is also part of the Mauve collection. This shade is called Check In. They describe it as a warm mauve with a silver sheen. I wouldn't call this a very intense shade. It seems to be more sheer. And it has a really nice scent to it, kind of like a vanilla. I'm so excited about this because it's probably going to match this eyeshadow perfectly. I love how affordable ColourPop is because you can pick up like a whole collection of things that are all designed to work together. This shade is so pretty. It's a little bit thinner consistency than I expected. I love the way that it catches the light though. I feel like it's really subtle and it doesn't detract too much from the beautiful glitter tones that we have on the eyes. Okay, so that's it for look number 1. If you'd like to skip ahead to the palette comparison or the summary, I'll have links in the description below. Otherwise, sit tight because I'll be right back for look number 2. Alright, now I'm back and ready to start look number 2. So to get started, I'm going to use this shade here called Big Moves. I'm just going to work it in the crease kind of as a transition shade. Also going to take it lightly on the lid just as a bit of a base. Same thing on the other side. Just create a nice soft base. Now I'm going to take this shade called Big Fig. I'm going to put it all over the eyelid here. Basically I just want to create a nice medium base layer. Trying to make sure to get it near the inner corner as well. Now I want to take this shade called Big Fig and I'm going to work it on the smudge brush all under that lower lash line. I'm going to take it almost to the inner corner. Same thing on the other side. Almost all the way across, but not quite to that inner corner. Now I'm going to use some of this shade here called A La Mode. I'm just going to take this on the lower half of the eyelid here to create kind of a soft, deeper layer. Same thing on the other side. This one's a little bit hard to pick up. I feel like it's just not as creamy as I was expecting. I'm already seeing a bit of fallout with this because it just doesn't seem to stick very well. It's a really beautiful color, I just feel like it's kind of hard to work with. I don't know if mine's just dried out or what. Now I'm going to take some of this shade here called Mauve on Top, and I'm going to work that on the upper half of the eyelid here. So I'm not going to make this too heavy, just kind of a light layer of this glitter. So now we have a bit of a gradient that goes from light to dark. Now I'm going to take this angled eyeliner brush into this shade here called Marquee. It's a beautiful deep plum. I'm going to stamp this along kind of like an eyeliner. If you want to make this more intense, you could also apply it wet, like using a setting spray or water. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I like using angled eyeliner brushes like this because they help you give a nice flick to the end. You don't have to do it that way, but it's nice to have the option. I'm going to take this little flick and work it along the lower lash line just a little bit. Same thing on the other side. I'm not quite happy with where that flick is falling, so I'm going to erase it using a makeup wipe and redo it. It's kind of hard to do this just freehand, so sometimes the makeup wipes can be really helpful to like erase and sort of restart once you see what you're doing. Alright, so let's start over. Make this a little bit higher. I'm going to leave my eye open and sort of stamp out the line first. I want to create a really nice uplifted effect here. Same thing on the other side. I'm trying to kind of match that same line, keeping my eye open. So one thing that's kind of funny about doing winged liners is you have to account for handedness, like if you're right-handed or left-handed. When I used to do makeup on other people, I found that it was actually easier to get winged liner right because you were using the same hand to apply it both times. When you do it on yourself, you have oftentimes two different eye shapes and one dominant hand, and so it becomes a little bit more difficult. Now I'm going to use this ColourPop BFF Creme Gel Liner. This one is in the shade Swerve or Black. I'm just going to take it along my inner waterline here. I'm also going to take it along this inner waterline area right near the tear duct. I'm going to do the same thing along the top of the lid here. Trying to be really careful where I put my finger to make sure I don't smudge this eyeliner we've got going on. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. It's always a little bit tricky to do. It's not too hard. It's just not my favorite thing in the world. I feel like it always looks super creepy. Now I'm going to use this Pacifica Stellar Gaze Length and Strength Mascara. This one is in the shade Supernova, which is also a black. I like how this fluffy brush makes it more of a volumizing mascara. I also like this one because it's really gentle. Same thing on the other side. I like to wiggle it from root to tip. I'm also going to take it on the lower lash line. Now I'm going to use some of this Catch My Vibe. This one is also part of the Mauve collection and is a beautiful matte baby pink shade. I use the other blush in look number 1, so I'm excited to have a chance to use this one in look number 2. I'm going to go ahead and put this on the cheeks. I feel like this one is coming out a little bit softer than the Mauve one. It's really pretty. I think this looks really soft and natural. I love the way it goes with this eye look. Now I'm going to use some of this ColourPop Pressed Powder Highlighter. This one is in this shade Andalasia, which is a beautiful peachy pink. Just going to take a little bit of this on the top of the cheekbone to give it a little bit of a pop. I don't want it to stand out too much. This highlighter is really nice because it just kind of gives a soft sheen. I feel like you can build it up if you want to, but I like how it's just kind of soft to start. I really love the colors in this Mauve palette. I feel like they're just so pretty. I've been missing cool tones. I feel like we haven't had them recently. So many of the palettes have been focusing on warm things like pinks and corals, and that's really nice, but I just kind of missed all those beautiful cool tones too. Just gonna put a little bit in the brow bone here, give it a tiny bit of a pop. Now I'm gonna use a little bit of this Milani Silky Matte Bronzing Powder. This one is in the shade Sunlight, which is just a light bronzing shade. I feel like it just gives a tiny bit of dimension. I like to put it in the hairline too, and down the jaw and neck. Now I'm gonna use this ColourPop Luxe Gloss. This is a beautiful warm mauve tone called Check In. It's also part of that Mauve collection. Just gonna put a little bit on. This is almost more of a tint. It's not like a heavily pigmented shade. Has a really nice vanilla smell and a bit of a citrus taste. You could definitely go with a more highly pigmented lip shade, especially if you want something a little more dramatic. I really like this one because it's nice and subtle. It doesn't stand out too much. I also love how this Check-In lip gloss is part of the same Mauve collection. I feel like it just goes really well with all those colors in the Making Mauves eyeshadow palette. So that's it for look number 2. I'm just going to do a quick summary of the items in the Making Mauve collection, but if you'd like to skip ahead to the eyeshadow palette comparison, I'll have a link in the description below. Now I just wanted to do a quick summary of the different Making Mauves products. First of all, I wanted to give a quick shout out to the people at ColourPop who designed their packaging. This is incredibly beautiful. I feel like all of the packaging at ColourPop has just been great. Whoever's doing it is just knocking it out of the park on every new release. This one is particularly beautiful. I just love the tones in it, and it has this beautiful kind of shiny gloss that just catches light in such a beautiful way. You can see this same print on the inside of the palette as well, and it just looks so pretty when you look at it. I also love how they eliminated the mirror. That actually helps a lot with landfill waste. And I like how it's paperback packaging, which is also better for the environment as well. If you look at the blushes, they also coordinate really nicely with the eyeshadow palette. As far as the products themselves, this Making Mauves eyeshadow palette has been one of my favorites of the recent releases. There have been so many warm tone palettes coming out recently that is so nice to see one that is just cool toned. I really love how many matte shades there are in this. I feel like you could create an entirely matte look. These shimmers are also a little bit more fine than some of the other ColourPop glitters recently. And I love how I was able to use Bi-Coastal to have a really nice icy highlight in look number 1. And I could also use Mauve on top and a la mode here to create this beautiful eye look, which pulls a little bit more into those rosy tones. As far as the shade selection, I felt like it was pretty useful, especially because you have a nice deep plum there and some really nice light shades like R&R. However, tongue-tied here, which has a little bit of glitter, and this matte, which is solitaire, are very similar. I swatched them here on the back of my hand and there isn't a remarkable difference between them, so I feel like they kind of fulfill the same role in this palette. The other thing I felt like wasn't ideal about this palette was this shade here called a la mode. I don't know if mine was just dried out, but I found it a little bit harder to work with. I almost would have preferred something that was a little less glittery but had more pigment to it because I just felt like I couldn't get all that kind of burgundy tone that I was quite expecting. However, these are kind of nitpicky things and I was really happy with the looks I was able to create with this palette. I really do love mauve and violet shades like this, and I'm so happy to see a palette focusing on this from ColourPop. At $14, you really can't complain for the price, and I love how highly pigmented all these shades are and how beautifully they all blended together. If you do love cool tone shades, I really feel like you can't go wrong with this palette. Even if you only want to use the matte shades, $14 is still a really good value. I also really like both of these blushes. They're really highly pigmented, and I think they looked really beautiful, especially with the Making Mauves Eyeshadow palette. Coast to Coast did come out a little bit more pink than I was expecting. I didn't feel like it was as deep of a mauve as I thought it was going to be, but I still feel like there was variation between the two colors, and I'm really happy to have both as part of my collection. At $8 a piece, I feel like these are a really good deal, and I absolutely love how they have that beautiful floral imprint on the powder as well. Otherwise, I love that they're matte, and I'm really happy with the way they go with the shades in the eyeshadow palette. I also really like this Luxe Gloss in the shade Check-In. I love the vanilla scent. I was a little surprised that it didn't taste like vanilla, that it tastes more like citrus. And I love how it's a little bit more of a sheen as opposed to like a thick glossy layer. I feel like it lends itself especially well to everyday looks. I think this is also one I'll be reaching for when I do some more intense eye looks as well, because it's just a nice light tint that adds a bit of polish, but it doesn't distract too much from anything that you have going on with your eyes. So this does actually have a bit of a silver sheen to it. It might be hard to see on camera. I even have to look closely when I see it in person. I do see it in the tube, however. I really don't like lip gloss that has super chunky glitter in it, and so I'm really glad that this one is more of a sheen. At only $8, I feel like this is a really good deal. I'm really happy that ColourPop continues to release lip colors that coordinate with their eyeshadow palettes. It just makes it so easy to know what to wear with it, and you don't have to go searching for a color that will work. Now I just want to do a quick comparison between this Making Mauves palette and some others. If you're the kind of person that gets a palette like this but only uses a few colors, you might enjoy this e.l.f. Bite Size palette in Rosewater. This one has a lot of similar tones. You'll see a nice deep violet, a shimmery pink, and some lighter neutrals as well. There's a nice color range in this one palette to do a full look, but you won't have to sort through all 9 colors to find your favorites. At only $3, this e.l.f. Bite Size palette is a fraction of the price of the ColourPop. While it does have fewer shades and a little bit less range, it would allow you to create a really nice cool toned mauve look as well. Another similar palette is the Milani Most Wanted in Rosy Revenge. This one is a little bit more in the pink range as opposed to the mauve, but you'll see that it has a nice range from shimmery neutrals to deeper shades as well. One of the main differences is that this Rosy Revenge palette has that bright fuchsia shade. It also has more subtle shimmers than this ColourPop palette. At only $10, this is only slightly less than the ColourPop palette. It also contains 6 shades as opposed to 9. However, if you're looking for something that's a little more pink and may have more subtle shimmers, Rosy Revenge is a nice option. As far as other ColourPop palettes, I feel like the most similar is this Give It To Me Straight palette. This one is a little bit more pink, whereas the mauve palette is a little bit more mauve. Give It To Me Straight is also $18, whereas Making Mauves is $14. You'll find some similarities in these, including light neutrals, mid-tone shimmers, and deep purple shades. However, Give It To Me Straight definitely skews a little bit more towards the pinks, whereas Making Mauves is definitely more in the violet or purple range. Probably the next closest is ColourPop's Flutter By. This one also has very similar mauve tone shades. It's a little bit more expensive because it's $18 for 12 shades as opposed to $14 for 9. You'll notice that Flutter By has more glitter shades and it also has a little bit more colorful shades, whereas Making Mauves is a little bit more subtle and more neutral. I also wanted to hold this up really quickly against Blush Crush and Nude Mood. These are all part of the same bouquet collection and they sell them together in a set on ColourPop. One of the things I love about these shades is that it's kind of like a neutral palette for every season or mood. Nude Mood is a beautiful warm neutral, Blush Crush is a nice soft pink, and Making Mauves is a beautiful cool kind of violet mauve tone. I feel like all of these are really nice everyday palettes. At $14 a piece, I think they're all a really good value. I love how all of them are highly pigmented, easily blendable, and have a great range of colors from light to deep. I do feel like these skew more towards softer everyday looks, but if you have a little creativity, you can also do some really beautiful, bold, more intense looks as well. It's really hard for me to pick a favorite out of these three. Initially, I thought Blush Crush was my favorite, but after trying Making Mauves, I really love this one as well. Also, I was really surprised by how much I liked Nude Mood after I put it on. Last but not least, I wanted to hold this up against Huda Beauty's New Nudes palette. This one is quite a bit more expensive at $65, but it's one of the most popular mauve neutral palettes that's on the market currently. When you see them side by side, you can see how the Making Mauves palette definitely skews towards softer, more neutral shades, whereas Huda Beauty's New Nudes has some of those more bold and bright shades. However, if you were considering buying Huda Beauty's New Nudes just for those softer everyday looks, Making Mauves could be a great alternative. Alright, so that's it for the eyeshadow comparisons. I really enjoyed playing with the Making Mauves collection, and I hope you found this video helpful. Please leave a comment and let me know which colors are your favorite to wear. Do you like mauve tones or blush tones or maybe warm neutrals? Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.